Pencil Kings, 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 Pencil Kings.
All right, we are back once again. This is the Pencil King podcast where we talk to artists from all over the world and hear what their stories are. Today we are talking to Derek Rodenbeck once again to get an update on his story. If you haven't heard the early episodes, what I recommend that you do is go to pencilkings.com/podcast. That will get you into the podcast archive, but if you go up to the top right of the website, there's a little magnifying glass icon, and if you just search Derek, a bunch of his podcasts should come up, and I suggest you start from the beginning to get the whole story here. But this month our theme is talking about fundamentals, so we're going to be talking a little bit about art fundamentals, but I feel like there's tons of that stuff. What there isn't tons of, though, is business fundamentals as it applies to artists, and I feel like this is the story that Derek's been telling us over time. There's been some twists and some turns, ups and downs. And so it's really fascinating for me watching someone who's as dedicated as Derek is and the steps that he's going through, because I know that there's a lot of people that aren't as dedicated and they think that it's just going to happen for them magically.
And it doesn't.
And yeah, it's maybe like 1 in a 10,000 that
billion.
You're a lottery winner and it does happen magically. But for most people, it's putting in a lot of effort.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think that's the last time that we talked. I remember you had gotten some traction with T-shirts.
Yes.
And the big lesson there, the big takeaway was taking your art to a place where you stand out, as where sort of like you can really shine. So putting your artwork out on DeviantArt, not really a great place to shine because there's like 10 billion other artists there. Taking your art to, was it an entrepreneur convention or a bodybuilding convention? I can't remember which one it was.
It was an entrepreneurial convention.
Yeah,
Yes.
So within this group of entrepreneurs, you had your T-shirts and you just like a brilliant star shining like, dude, I got mad design skills. And it was very easy then, I feel like, compared to other things that you had tried, and you almost didn't do it, right? You took those shirts almost on a whim.
Yeah, I mean,
wasn't it like at the last minute you decided, yeah, I'll take the shirts, I'll throw them in the car, it's no big deal, and then they sold like hotcakes.
Yeah, I literally it was kind of like the last thing I was putting into my car. And it was one of those things where it's like, man, I really don't have room in my car. I got to pick up a couple people and I got to shove this huge painting in. It's going to be an 18-hour drive. And I was like, you know what? I have this little small box of T-shirts here. Let's just bring them and see what happens. And, sure enough. And I almost didn't even put them out when I got there. And it was just another thing. I was just like, all right, I'll put them out. We'll see what happens. And sure enough, I don't have them anymore.
What do you think the hesitation was when you almost didn't put out the shirts? Because you lugged them all the way there.
Yeah, I think it was just that like consistent failure where I was just like, what's the point, As like...
Oh, so even though you were so close to the finish line, you're basically like one step away from breaking through the ribbon at the finish line, and you're just like, no. But then you decide to do it anyway.
Yeah, it was just like the deciding factor was, well, I did bring these all the way down. I'd better put them out. I was like giving myself a little pep talk. I was like, dude, you better put these out.
Okay, so that was the last update. And as far as I was concerned, like you were on a rocket ship. Like everything was green lights all the way. You found some traction in a niche and some ideas that you could maybe take to other niches.
Yep.
And when was that? Was that at the start of December? Or was it maybe in November?
That was the end of November.
End of November,
yeah,
okay.
I think it was like maybe mid-November, something like that.
Okay, so it's been a couple months.
Yeah.
We've had the holiday season. We've got past New Year's resolutions. We've already thrown those out. Well, maybe you haven't. You're a lot more disciplined than most people. But where are things at now? What's the general update? I'll just turn it over to you, and you can tell us what's happened in the last 2 months since selling those T-shirts.
Sure. Actually, on my way home from Florida, like once I got back into Pennsylvania, I got a text message from my landlord, and essentially he said he didn't pay taxes and that the house was going to sheriff's sale and we had to get out in 30 days. So
So what is it like? I'm for people who aren't familiar with what that means. So I think we can understand that he didn't pay his taxes, but does that mean like the government or someone is seizing the house, and that even though you're a tenant, like you don't have any rights to that place, and it's like, yes, sorry, this you just got to get out of here in 30 days. Is that
We were since I was we had a lease that was over a year. We were on a month-to-month basis, so that was basically like the out.
Oh,
Yeah, so
okay.
he only had to give us 30 days notice, and sure enough, that's what happened. And unfortunately, I never received like a security deposit back or anything. And once our date was to get out, it was kind of like, all right, put all your stuff in a storage unit, and I ended up living in my car for a couple like about a week or so. So
Yeah, and it's not warm this time of year either.
no,
Like it's not a good time to be in your
the
car.
the first night I was actually laying in my front seat, and my 135-pound dog Kuma was in the back seat, and I finally found a spot where I could just kind of like tuck away where I knew like people wouldn't bother me. And I had to have the windows open because Kuma was wet, so it like kind of smelled. And
Hmm.
and it was raining, so like rain was like coming in on my face from the window. And I remember laying there, and I was just like, you know, this isn't like forever, but this sucks.
Yeah. For me, hearing that, it's so like I don't know. I feel like so much emotion hearing that I see your updates on Facebook. So
Yeah.
from my standpoint, the last thing that I saw from you was you at a strongman competition, like jumping over, like
Yeah.
doing these standing jumps and jumping crazy high.
Yeah.
And for those of you that don't know what Derek looks like, like when Wolverine goes into his training mode and you see pictures of Hugh Jackman when he's he'll have like a big beard or
Yeah.
something because he's not in actor form yet. Or when they did the old Superman movie, I remember seeing pictures of him.
Right.
I think there's a part in the movie where he had a big beard.
Yeah.
That's what Derek looks like. He's a huge, muscly guy. So picturing this giant dog and this giant man in a car, I don't know, and the rain falling, like I just feel like you're someone that has your stuff together. You're healthy. You're working on your art all the time, and it just like it's like, man, can't where's the break? Like where's life to throw you a bone?
Well,
You know?
sometimes things just happen, and I remember saying to myself, like, during this whole process, I was like, I'm not gonna get upset about this. I'll acknowledge that it sucks, but I'm not gonna get upset about this. This is not gonna be like something that's gonna hold me back. And I came up with I was reading The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy, I believe was his
Hmm.
name. So I'd sit in my car, I'd go like shower at the gym and lift, and then I would take my dog and myself into the library, and I would work. I would set up a schedule and track like my spending, track the time I was working on my artwork, and trying to kind of like figure all this out, kind of impromptu. A couple of friends kind of caught wind and said, hey Derek, what are you doing? And offered me, some spots to stay, and that definitely has helped, as well as I've been able to save. And now I'm going to be moving into a new place fairly soon. But going back, like I think the most important thing during this whole dilemma was the unwillingness to succumb to the the angst that could be easily something you could submit to, and just allowing myself to say to myself, hey man, like you've been in worse situations, just keep working hard. And that's really started to pay off in the sense of now, my freelance work.
So you just set yourself a schedule and focus on that, and that was enough. So that kind of took you into a zen spot, and you knew that it was only a matter of time as long as you kept doing the right things. And for those of you that don't know this book, The Compound Effect, that's essentially the message of the book, is
Right.
that it's just very simple things that you do every day, like eating healthy over a long period of time. Like you'll be a really healthy person, or working out. You don't have to work out crazy every day, but
Right.
if you do like 15 minutes of lifting a day, after 2 or 3 years you're going to be pretty toned.
Exactly.
So it's just like these little movements add up over time. And so is that kind of the thinking that you had, that just do my stuff and things are they have to turn around?
Yeah, it was that. And then having this talk with one of my mentors, and some of the things he kind of pointed out to me, and he even asked me, he's like, did you have something happen like during the war, like are you brain damaged, like what's going on, because like everything you need to do as far as what you need to do to be essentially successful. And that like really like kind of hit me and like pushed me into overdrive. I was just like, it's like, no, I'm none of those things. Like I just need to focus, and I think focus was like the key word, extreme laser beam focus.
So why would he even say something like that though? Like I feel like as a mentor, I would never say to someone, "Are you brain damaged?" Like, was there something that you were doing that kind of set him off in that direction? I mean, ultimately, it seems like it was a good thing to say
It
because
was it was an extremely good
lit
thing. Yeah.
fire under your butt.
Yeah, it was an extremely good thing to say because, as a friend too, it wasn't in a sense of like an insulting thing, but in a sense of like, what can I do to help you? You know what I mean? Like, what is going on? So,
Mm.
like that, and it really did. I was just like, it made me like reflect and think, and now the output's like just been uh, extreme, so to say.
Okay, so let's take this in and then just examine this a little bit because I feel like there's still more to this story. But what did that look like once you focused? Because it feels like when that happened, then you started to create opportunities for yourself. But did you look at it and say, okay, I've got X amount of free time in my day, so I'm putting a percentage of that towards doing my art and a percentage of that towards doing these other things? Or how did you break that up or make that decision of how much time to spend, especially on your art? Because I feel like that's one thing that I hear a lot of people saying, I just don't have time for my art. And it's like, yes, you
You
do.
do, yeah.
It's like what you don't have time for is Netflix,
Yeah.
and yet you seem to make time for that. And I'm guilty of this. I feel like a lot of people are guilty in different areas. But if it's something that you really want and something that's important to you,
Right.
you can make the time. But I'm curious how you broke it up for yourself when you went into this like beast mode of focus.
Um, I think like the number one thing was tracking. Tracking is the most important thing. Because it really lets you look at what you're doing and not doing. Uh, you can think you're doing a lot and you could be doing stuff and it shows like you are doing a lot, but are you really doing the best that you can do? And I think that's like the number one question I ask myself every single day before I go to sleep. When I write this down in a book, when I'm tracking everything, and the last thing I write is, was this the best that you can do? And so far, I haven't been able to write yes. So, like, I'll write, like, no, but you did great, like, but here's where you can improve. And really, truly, like, asking yourself that question and being honest with yourself, it really, I think, opens your eyes because you're taking an outside perspective of your life and who you are as a person. And facing that kind of like mirror, that honesty, that's it could be a hard pill to swallow, or it could be something that you can work on and continue to get better at.
And so when you were asking that and you got into your routine, I'm curious, like how much time were you spending with your art? 2 hours a day, 4 hours a day, 1 hour a day, or was it all over the map? So it's hard to really say.
At first, it was all over the map because I was just kind of like bouncing around, and it was based on like per project. And now I'm at about, I'd say, a consistent 6 hours a day.
Dang.
Yeah, so it's 6 hours a day of art, 1 hour a day of reading, 35 minutes a day to an hour a day of working on Adobe Muse. I've been teaching myself that program so I can build websites, and then yeah, that's pretty much it. And then that's it. And then I track my finance, obviously, like.
Your finance, and then you're going to the gym as well. I'm guessing like
Actually,
once a day or once every 2 days, or
no, I don't. I really don't track the gym because it's just I just go. Like that's
oh, okay.
yeah. That's that's something I think a lot of people do track, but I just do it. It's just something I just do. So
Did you track that in the beginning?
no, I never did.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're doing your art for 6-ish hours a day,
Mhm.
or you settle into a routine, and you started posting your work online, right?
Yeah, and this was like I think the magical thing. I started doing a drawing a day for the new year, not necessarily as a New Year's resolution, but I just kind of want to fill up one of these books and have it, and maybe sell it later. Who knows? But it was a great way to just kind of hone some skills and work on some new styles and techniques, and really give yourself like that freedom to explore different ways to create art. So I got one of those little moleskin sketchbooks, and I just started, you know, doing little ink drawings in them, and then I post them across like my expansive network of every social media site that I try to put myself on. And I think that's also another key. It's not necessarily just doing the thing; it's also showing the thing. And
Hmm.
consistently posting these drawings, I started to get some attention. Actually, not just some, a lot of attention. And now I'm working. I just finished one project, but I'm involved with two pretty big projects that I'm very excited about.
And so I want to ask, what does a lot of attention mean to you? Because I feel like for myself, I've had some websites that have had attention, but I've never had personal art that's got a lot of attention. What does that feel like, or what does it look like, or how is it like you wake up and you're like kind of half asleep and you look at your phone and you're like, wait a
Yeah.
second, this number isn't right.
Um, when we started our podcast, and I forgot that my phone was on and it was blowing up. Like, yeah, it's pretty much like that now. Where now I'm structuring time where it's like I turn off my phone. I answer my phone only certain times of the day. I turn off my email, only answer my email certain times of the day. But I started getting people just sending me messages saying, "Hey Derek, really like your work, and we have this project, and are you interested in taking a look at it?" And it slowly started to grow from there. Also, one of my buddies introduced me to a contact that he had, and then I got involved with their team as well after the I guess CEO saw my work.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And so now is that still something that you're going to continue to do, this daily outreach? Because it's always this balancing act, right?
Right.
You got 6 hours to focus and play and experiment and post and just be.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, hey, opportunities start showing up. Awesome.
Right.
But now you got to balance the opportunity with also doing the outreach to feed more opportunities in. But I feel like opportunities can lead to more opportunities without necessarily having to do the outreach.
Right.
But it is a balancing act. So
Yes.
where are you at right now with all that?
The past 2 weeks, I think I fell off more so on the consistency of, well, that was like past week posting art, because I ended up getting three projects like on my lap, like boom, like, so I had to start working on these things. But recognizing that, I sat down last night and started writing out a post schedule to post on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and what I need to post each day, and what problem I'm trying to solve, or what I'm trying to do as far as like connect to somebody, or what information I want to give out. So I think developing a post schedule is a big help, because then you don't really necessarily have to think about what you are posting that day as far as content. You just know like this is the theme of that day, and that's what you're gonna do. So yeah, I mean that's as far as like that part of the balancing act. You do need to find that happy medium, because now my 6 hours working on, I just finished up a comic book variant cover for a comic called Edge of Extinction, and I'm working on a character concepts and the actual script, or the layouts for the script for a book called Wolverton, and the last company is called Arcane Infinity, and it's actually a card game. And I was never really like into card games, but we've been like testing it, and I've been doing some of the character like paintings for the cards. So it's been pretty wild.
And so, in the theme of having actionable takeaways that people listening to this can have, for the person that their skills aren't quite there, would you still recommend that this person does some kind of serious study and posts that every day? As maybe they can't hit that consistency, but that's something to aspire to. That I like inside Pencil Kings, we do this 21-day sketching challenge. So as
Right.
soon as you join on day 7, it's like, okay, for the next 21 days, you got to sketch every single day. That's the challenge. There's no criteria. If you just want to put a line on a page, that counts. I want to make this as
Yeah.
easy as possible. But what happens, what secretly happens is that, uh, people they sit down like, I have no time. They draw a circle and they draw a happy face. I'm like, well, that doesn't look so good. I'm
No.
going to draw some ears there and a body. And all of a sudden it's like, they spent 15 minutes or maybe 2 hours
Right.
sketching, and it gets them back in that habit. But they're showing it inside our private community where it's very safe. And I feel like opportunities can happen inside there,
Right.
but the bigger opportunities are happening outside. So for the person who's maybe not quite happy with their skills, would you still recommend for that person to start posting on Instagram if they're serious about having a career? Or do you think it's something that could actually be harmful, where if your work is too all over the place and just doesn't look good, then it's maybe better to just keep it inside Pencil Kings and keep honing it a little bit more, and then getting some feedback and saying like, should I start
Mm.
posting this stuff? And somebody will say like, yeah, I feel like you never really have to ask for permission with any of this, with anything in life.
Right.
You just do, and things will happen. But
Um,
what's your take on it? Because I feel like there is a point where you can be too green, and if somebody goes back to the beginning, it's like, oh, what's this?
um, I mean, personally, I say hell yeah, post. If you are putting out artwork and you're learning from it, post it, because you don't know who you're gonna connect to. My buddy Rich, he owns Aggressive Comics, and him and we met each other. Whew, must have been like, I don't know, 7 years ago, and we just met on a comic books and writers like forum on Facebook back when they had like groups just that people kind of joined, and he had posted something, and I sent him a message, and uh, he was like, "Oh, I write comic books," and I was like, "Oh, I draw comic books," and we developed this long-lasting friendship and we still talk today. And now he owns Aggressive Comics, which is, I think they got like 150,000 followers or something on Facebook or whatever. But he's definitely made became a staple in the comic book industry as far as like cosplay and comics and news. So it's like, really, you don't know who you're going to meet. So as long as you put yourself out there, and you don't know who you're going to meet that is also willing to help you. I've met a lot of artists that have been willing to reach out and help me because they see like that I'm interested in this, and they see that I'm interested in their work and want to learn. So if you are doing art and you want to make a career out of this, yes, please post. Reach out to me and I'll help you.
Hmm. That definitely makes
Yeah.
sense. I think too, another thing is that it shows how dedicated you are or how hungry you are. That if somebody sends you a post or sends you a picture and says, "Hey, could you take a look at this? I've really been practicing on whatever it is," and you look at it, and no matter where the artwork is at, and then you look at that person's website and you're like, "Whoa,
Right.
this person is really improved." No matter what level they're at with this piece that they sent me, I can see that they're really seriously working at this and improving. And just showing that you're serious about something, that goes a really
Yep.
long way.
And that's what it's about. It is ultimately in the end like about helping each other become greater artists, greater people, greater whatever. Like it's not just about art. It's about helping each other as people, I think. And that's just fundamentally, I think, important.
So what's coming up next? I feel like there's something still with those t-shirts and tapping into those, standing out in a crowd where
Yes.
there's no other artists. I feel like there's something there. You're getting busy with freelance work. What's coming up? What do you foresee in the next little while, so when we check up again, we can say, wow, that happened or that didn't happen.
Yeah.
That was amazing. It was way better than we could have ever foreseen.
Next is definitely solidifying my place as far as having my studio in Philadelphia, and then I'm gonna be working towards getting out to California.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So that's
Like
kind of the
full time or just to visit?
I want to live there, you know. So like that's like one of the main goals I think of this year. As far as the t-shirts go, now that I'm doing fairly well. I'm not like amazingly wealthy, but I'm doing fairly well as far as making money from art right now. I can start not only investing in a little more time in making these shirts, but I also have a company that I'm working with that is interested in reaching out to their audience and selling shirts on their site too, and even possible funding too. So there's I think that the next time we speak, I'll probably have maybe 2 or 3 new shirts printed, and who knows? I'll definitely I should have probably I definitely will have the first comic book of Wolverton done, which was a screenplay. Which it's really cool. It's an awesome story. I'm like stoked to be involved with that project, and I guess the card game would be near completion as well. So. And then who knows where we're going to be, just keep reading marketing books and keep learning about business and trying to build websites. And I think that's the direction. Yeah.
Okay, so from where you are right now, because I feel like our first episode, it must have been about a year ago or maybe a little bit more.
I'd say so, yeah.
So for somebody who's, we followed you for a year, what advice could you say to somebody that would help them shortcut this previous year that you've had, where at the beginning, just to recap a little bit from what I remember, was that you're doing T-shirts and you had like this grand vision and
Yeah.
there was at some point where you were doing like multiple different brands and multiple different outreach
Yeah.
thing, and I was like, whoa, that seems like a lot. And you're like, no, I got it.
I
Then
didn't
it was
have
like, then it was like it wasn't going so good, but then you found some mentorship along the way there and some people to help you out. Then you sold out all your T-shirts. I was like, whoa, okay, T-shirts are back. This is awesome. And then this most recent update where you have life threw you a curveball. You're basically got not evicted because of anything that you did, but it's basically your housing situation just did not exist
Right.
at one point. But you've turned that into just getting back and focusing and working and posting your work and sort of spreading the word. And now you've got some freelance is building up, and that's I'm sure going to snowball into other things once these projects go live. People see these covers and these cards and be like, oh, who did that?
Right.
It's just going to turn into more things. So for somebody who wanted to do the same path as you, because there's so many people that want to freelance their art, and I feel like there's so many different styles of art that people don't even realize how much opportunity is out there. But what advice would you give to somebody that would say to help them to shortcut the past year of experience, where maybe some of the big takeaways, the big learnings?
I'd say the first thing that popped in my head was don't get married to your ideas. Follow your heart, but don't be so committed to an idea that you're not willing to adapt to what kind of life throws at you with that idea. I think that would probably definitely be the number one thing, because I got, I think, so hung up on the actual idea of what I was doing with the t-shirt company, that it had to be this way and this was going to be the grand vision. That's probably the best way to put it. Don't be married to the grand vision. Allow life to kind of happen and allow yourself to flow with what life does throw at you, and that will ultimately create the grand vision. You got to let yourself be guided.
I feel you, but I don't know if I understand you. Like, I try to approach this from advice that I've been given before, that once I've had the experience, then the advice makes sense. But in the beginning, I don't know if this advice, even though I think it's great advice, I don't know if it relates to somebody, because their goal might just be, I want to be a freelancer. And so you said, don't be married to the idea. So what does that mean in terms of that person? Do they not become a freelancer then? Or
Well, that also goes back to your consistency. I think being extremely consistent on an idea that you have, not necessarily the grand vision of that idea, but being consistent of that idea and working in that process, and allowing yourself to be comfortable with the process and not like so focused on that end result. Because then that yeah.
okay. Okay, I really like that. So basically, you want to become a freelancer, but you're something else might happen along the way, but what you got to concern yourself with is the day-to-day of doing whatever it is.
Right.
And just saying like, okay, I'm trying to be a freelancer, and so a freelancer should do their work every day and post it online. But that might lead to you, instead of being a freelancer, it might lead to you doing caricatures at a local market, that could be a totally different direction, but it's still related, and it gets you to that bigger end goal of like, I just want to do something creative and get rewarded
Right.
financially for it.
Or you might meet like a local art director at that market, and that art director might give you work, and then they might know somebody who, and that's how everything kind of moves and turns. You know what I mean? Like, it's the art community is a big community, but it's a small community, especially comics. Everybody knows each other. And I feel like that's kind of the same way with gaming and, you know, all these interconnected communities. It's about being involved and obviously, developing a network. And there's so many things that, especially like this past year, like I've definitely, there is a lot that I've I've been tested on, and I've had to learn. So, um, yeah, consistency, man.
One other thing I would like to ask about, because I've been thinking about this a lot, is I think when we very first talked, you had just won a bodybuilding competition, and you said something that's stuck with me ever since, is that weightlifting to you is power and aggression.
Mm.
And drawing to you is finesse and softness or being precise.
Oh wow, yeah,
Like
I remember that.
there's just like yin yang
Yeah.
dynamic there. And I'm wondering, now a year in, obviously you're way bigger than you were when we first started talking. Do you still feel the same way? And do you feel like there's something there
That's a good question.
that really is like helping balance? Because the reason why I ask, I was reading this article online about this entrepreneur, and he was saying how he was just sort of stuck in everything,
Right.
and he was really focused on his business. So I feel like whenever we have this singular focus, that a lot of other areas of our life can kind of fall by the wayside. So what he did then is had this integrated approach where he focused on everything. Like his health got the time that it deserved.
Yes.
His relationships got the time that they deserved. His spiritual practices got the time that they deserved. And that by doing this, even though he was spending far less time on his business, like his life improved naturally, but his business, the thing that he was spending so much time focusing on, it just like took off and doubled or tripled or whatever it was. Now, obviously results will always vary, and who knows if the story is even true or not.
Right.
I have no idea, but I thought the idea was interesting.
It is an interesting idea.
And I feel like health is one of the ones that you don't have to go to the lengths that you have gone, but I feel like it's something that a lot of people very easily neglect, that it might be this thing that's, if you feel like you're stuck or you're at a plateau, that might be the thing, moving.
Exactly.
Like moving your body.
Exactly. I mean, for me personally, again, I mean, I still think I definitely agree with that statement. I mean, I go into the gym. If I'm working all day, I might be standing or sitting, and I'm literally like just completely encompassed in the work. You get into, flow. And time passes by. There's times where I'm like, oh wow, I'm sitting in the dark. I didn't realize it got dark out. And I really do feel that's a smooth, like meditative, soothing thing. As far as weightlifting goes, you can still get into that like pace of tranquility, especially like if you're in a last rep of a heavy rep, and that's like really what you're focused on. You have that extreme focus, but you also have that explosive just aggression, as far as getting it done. And I think that's something that can be also attributed to going back to your artwork when you are like focus, but then you get stuck on a pose or stuck on something and you're getting frustrated, and you go back to the weightlifting and it's like, no, push through the rep and get it done. There's no excuse, just do it. And either you lift it or you don't, and if you don't, then then you don't get the job done, or you don't, you know what I mean. It's the lifting, it stimulates my nervous system, my muscles and my bones. I can see how my muscles move, in the mirror, and that actually does help me back when it comes to drawing anatomy and things like that too. So it's always consistently being aware and studying life around you.
All right. I'm looking forward to the next update in a couple months.
All right.
And
love talking to you.
Yeah, so if you want to see the show notes for this, or like I said at the beginning, listen to some of these earlier episodes, you can go to pencilkings.com/podcast. If you like these Derek updates, I would love for you to go to iTunes and leave us a 5-star review, because that helps us spread the word and get these interviews out to more people who we can help. So that's my ask of you, listeners. As always, have a great day, have a great week, and we will be back in 7 days with another episode of the Pencil Kings podcast.
All right. Thanks, Mitch.
Demands patience, skill, years of practice.
Ah, you talk like a fool. I would trade a century of practice for an ounce of inspiration.